From the Carson Student Athlete Center in the Schaefer Sports Hall of Fame in Tempe, Arizona, it's time for Sun Devil Extra, presented by Spring Hill Suites, Phoenix, and Scottsdale. I'm Braiden Bell, joined alongside Graham Rossini, the athletic director here at Arizona State. And Graham, I keep talking about quarter zips every single week. I still haven't actually done it. He's in the mood, and folks, those of you locally, you know it's finally 70 degrees. So vibes are high. Things are starting to really shape up around the valley, it seems like.
Yeah, we're in the Chamber of Commerce part of the year, right? Many sports underway, many sports having success. Weather's getting great. Halloween's this week, so a lot of excitement around the valley once again.
I've described the Valley of the Sun this time of year. It's like nirvana almost. We're starting to reach that point. It feels really good.
Yep.
Okay, let's dive into this week that was and what is to come. We'll start with ASU football, of course, and the Devils had a bye week, got to get healthy, got to get right. Sam Levitt, of course, that was a talking point coming into this week, and also the Cincinnati game, of course, that he missed. He has been medically cleared to play, according to head coach Kenny Dillingham. Still unsure whether or not he will play for sure on Saturday against Oklahoma State. But let's talk a little bit about that matchup. The Devils will be back on the road against Oklahoma State on Saturday, a team that is on a 5-game losing streak for the first time since 2014. They were picked to finish third in the conference, so you have that to circle. But I think more than anything, ASU fans are just excited to see the team back out there again.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, after the bye week, you're kind of chomping at the bit, and the unusual dynamic this year with 2 bye weeks. So I think, speaking for the team, they're excited to kind of get back in the rhythm. And then we're looking at a 5-week sprint now to the end of the season, and so we're kind of in what coaches call the third chapter of the football season. And going into November 5-2, it's a great spot to be in. This conference continues to prove that it's wide open. It's there for the taking. And so really important game against Oklahoma State in Stillwater. And you mentioned Sam, that's encouraging. Kudos to our medical staff. We're lucky that Mayo Clinic is leading our medical efforts. We've got an incredible sports medicine team. Jerry in football does an amazing job. So eager to get Sam some reps this week and understand if he's ready to go. But the rest of the team, you're right, the benefit of a bye week and a chance to kind of get right, get back to the drawing board on play calling and some systems that they want to put into place for this weekend, and then get some bodies fresh and ready to go handle this final chapter of the season in a great way.
I wanted to ask you about that schedule because I have seen a lot of fans bring up that second bye week and how it is unusual, and it is the first year in the Big 12, so the conference, kind of working ASU into the fold along with the 3 other corner schools coming in. But what was the reason for those 2 bye weeks this year?
Just the unusual nature of, again, the conference transition and doing a lot of scheduling work that's usually done 3-4 years out in 3-4 months.
Yeah.
So just kind of a byproduct of the conference realignment that's happening nationally. There's been a lot of conversations lately about week 0 and how that enters the conversation on more of a broad-based scenario. So I think 1 or 2 bye weeks, there's a way that you can be very planful and very strategic with how you use those. I don't know that it'll be the norm, but certainly it's something that we've been looking to utilize this year.
I think coaches and players probably love it. Fans, not so much. Having to sit on your hands for another Saturday, it can be tough. But if you do remember, Sun Devil fans, ASU was very good coming off their first bye of the year, beating Kansas at home 35-31 in what was one of the more exciting wins of the season so far for ASU. So the Devils at 5-2, looking to clinch bowl eligibility this weekend. And as we said, Oklahoma State, yes, knock on that wood there. Oklahoma State, a team that was picked to finish 3rd in the conference. They are down, but they're going to be hungry for a win. Mike Gundy, their head coach, has been there for nearly 2 decades, and he's obviously one of the better coaches in the country. So it's not going to be easy. Saturday, 4 p.m. on FS1 will be kickoff in Stillwater, assuming you're making the trip, correct?
Yeah, we're going in, and I think one of the benefits is we've played them the last 2 seasons.
Yes.
So we were in Stillwater 2 years ago. It's an incredible environment. I can't wait for the fans who are going with us this weekend to be back there. It's a really neat place to enjoy a game day. The stadium is right on top of the field.
Yes.
There's no sideline room there, so it's going to be energetic. They have incredible fans. It'll be a sellout. And yeah, they're down, but that's a competitive team. They were picked to be a big finisher in the Big 12, so we've got our work cut out for ourselves. And I know Coach is getting the guys ready to go, and can't wait to get on the plane on Friday.
Yeah, it'll be the 4th road game of the year for ASU, of course. 2 losses, both their losses coming on the road. They also had that road win against Texas State, so trying to even things out on the road. And yes, again, knock on wood, but looking for that important 6th win of the year. That comes on Saturday at 4 p.m. On to volleyball now. It was just a 1-match week for the volleyball team, but it was a good one. A 4-set win against Arizona down in Tucson. So now J.J. Van Niel 4-0 all-time against Arizona at the helm. And the number 13 Sun Devils continued to roll. And it sets up now kind of that fever pitch, top of the line week, 2-week stretch they have now, and that starts with this week taking on both Utah schools, BYU first on Halloween night, and then Utah on Saturday. Both those squads ranked in the top 20. Yep. And then, you don't want to look too far ahead, but number 9 Kansas comes to Tempe next week at Mullet Arena. So, as a former player, you've obviously been in the front office of a big league ball club. You're obviously now the athletic director. How do you focus? Because I think fans always hear the one game at a time mentality, but fans love to look ahead.
Yeah.
When you're inside the walls, how do you handle taking it one game at a time, knowing all 3 of these are huge?
Yeah, I spent a good amount of time with Coach Van Neal last night, just catching up on a number of topics, and we're mapping out the rest of the schedule and making sure that we've got the right message to the fan base, and really trying to push attendance at our home games, the 3 that I think that we have remaining. Next week being critically important, as you mentioned, but we got a good test this week on the road, and it could really be impactful on the outcome of the season. We're sitting in a great spot, 20-2, and a good spot with only 1 loss in the Big 12, and so, the Big 12 title in volleyball is there for the taking. We've got to go take care of business on the road in a way that we have, come back home and continue to build that momentum, and it's just exciting. I think this team is so competitive, and after the win at U of A, I didn't go to Tucson, but I had a chance to watch it at home. It was on ESPN, and so it was great to watch that. Wanted to avoid the trip to Tucson, and was happy to do so. But, first of all, shout out to the Inferno Insider and the 942 crew that went down there. That was incredible to tune in and see that large section of gold right behind the bench. But then afterwards, I was watching the game with my wife, Allison. Her mom was actually there, and they have a volleyball history, and so we went down the rabbit hole of watching earlier episodes of Sun Devil Extra. And we wanted to see Jelly Sear and Claire Jeter and Arj and Coach Van Neal in their interviews, and they did a tremendous job, obviously talking about the experience, but the competitive spirit and the way that this team plays together as a unit, as a team. They know each other's tendencies. They're on the same wavelength. They're all focused on the team outcomes, and they're wildly competitive. And so they know that there's an eventual outcome that we're working towards, but you can't get beyond yourself. You got to stay present in the moment. They've got to play 1 game at a time, 1 set at a time, 1 play at a time. And that's the way to just to compartmentalize your energy, of just win the point. And in that sport in particular, you can win a point every time you touch the ball, and just really simplifying it. You can't get ahead of yourselves. There's a lot that we're playing for, but I think any of us that are competitive by nature, you have to be present to be able to perform at your best. And so these road games this week will be a wonderful test, and kind of get us prepared for an eventual outcome. And it's nice to be at a point in the season where we're not looking for participation trophies. We're not looking to get in the tournament. We want to make a deep run. In order to do that, you need to be progressing as the season gets deeper, and we're in crunch time in volleyball right now.
Cliches flying around here, 1 game at a time, but how about pressure is a privilege? And that's exactly where this team is right now. They've earned that, being 20-2, and like we said, they'll be on the road this week for a chance to take on 2 teams they took care of in Tempe, but 2 very good programs. It'll be fun to watch, and then, yes, we'll talk about the Kansas game next week. How about that? So a lot of fun on the volleyball court. How about some postseason play rounding into form? The women's soccer team in Kansas City, they, of course, earned the right to play in the Big 12 tournament. They'll get things going on Wednesday night, so that will be a great opportunity for Graham Winkworth's squad. They'll start off that tournament against number 6 Kansas at 6 p.m. And so the first postseason tournament in Big 12 play for an Arizona State squad. Very exciting, of course, and chance to try to make some noise coming in as the 11 seed. But, I mean, we both know it, especially in a single elimination tournament. Anything can happen.
Yeah, this is a really interesting format. I mean, this is a gauntlet to win the Big 12 soccer title. A week and a half potentially if we go wire to wire. We need it. We need a really good performance in the Big 12 in order to beef up an NCAA tournament resume. So Wednesday night's an important game. It looks like the weather is going to be impacting start times potentially, but the beauty of soccer players is they're used to playing in certainly those that are from over the pond, across the pond. A little drizzle in Kansas City should be nothing to hold us back. And tricky ending of the season. Lost to U of A Friday night, 1-0. That was a heartbreaker. It was senior night, so not really the send-off going into the tournament that we wanted. But I know they had a good weekend of practice. They left really early Monday, so they've been in Kansas City to get organized and get prepared for the the start of the tournament Wednesday night. It's at the brand new stadium in Kansas City, the women's professional stadium. So it's a great venue, it's a great opportunity, and no time like the present for this team to find their magic and hopefully have a deep run.
You wipe the slate clean, of course, going to postseason. You mentioned that tough loss to U of A, but you completely move that to the side. Everyone's 0-0 now. As we said, they take on Kansas first. If they are to beat the Jayhawks and move on, then it would be the 3 seed West Virginia on Saturday. Like you said, though, if the Devils keep winning, well, they might as well really turn their hotel into a permanent residence. They'll be there for a week and a half.
Yeah, I would say a little jazz music and Kansas City barbecue is going to be the thing that ignites this team into a deep run. So.
Barbecue and soccer, I don't know how that works, but yes, a great barbecue there.
We're also on a scouting trip for the basketball tournament in March, so we'll come back with some good insights on where the good places to hang out are, and we'll share that with our fans.
From the pitch to the hardwood, we move on now, and we are less than a week away from basketball season officially getting going. Women's basketball will start against Jacksonville State on Monday. Men's basketball will start on Tuesday night against Idaho State. So a lot of excitement about both these teams. I know we've talked about both these teams at length, but those were all conversations we had like a month or 2 months out. Now we're less than a week. You're finally in scouting for the opposition. You're full-fledged in it. And we talked to Bobby Hurley this last week, the player Bobby Hurley, we should say, and the excitement he had just being able to play someone else with a different name across the chest. That's huge, and that's exactly where we're at this point of the season now.
Yeah, both basketball rosters, women's and men, have been here for a good chunk of the summer. So even before school started in August, both rosters were on campus. They were working out. A lot of new faces, so it's helpful that they've come together as a team. And I think we've definitely exhausted the point where you're seeing a maroon team versus a gold team. And so the scrimmages that both programs have had, they've each played 2 games against different opponents. There's a lot of positive takeaways that come from that. And you're not showing all your plays, you're not really scouting the opponent, you're really trying to get a feel for the tendencies within our roster. So I know they're ready to turn on the lights, and it's nice that Monday night with the women's getting underway at Desert Financial, then Tuesday with the men's following suit, obviously Desert Financial Arena as well. It's just good to get them underway. And challenging non-conference slates, but that's by design, as we've been talking about a lot on this show this fall. But can't wait to get these rosters underway. Both are very talented. Both are totally revamped from last season, and we know that there's a higher expectation, so really eager to see how both programs come together, how they start to perform, and again, knock on wood, being physical, having some bigs on both roster, being healthy, and having the A-team on the court is going to be a huge difference maker. Yeah,
you just said it. Bigger, more physical, beefed up is what I was going to say in terms of both these rosters, both talent-wise and obviously just physicality as well. We said what days both those games are. We'll give you the time. 6:30 for the women's on Monday at DFA, 7 p.m. On Tuesday for the men against Idaho State. And I don't know about you, but I can't wait to watch both these teams play. Of course, non-conference slate just getting going, but basketball season is one of my favorite times of the year, and I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, no doubt. We're eager to get them underway and have been lucky to see a lot of their practices. Saw the women's scrimmage over the weekend at Salt River High School, and we did a clinic afterwards at the Way of Life facility, so that was a wonderful chance to give back to the community and empower some young kids through the sport of basketball. And yeah, what a wonderful time of year again that we're in it. Hockey's underway, basketball is getting going, so a lot of goodness here on the Tempe campus.
Yeah, we'll touch more on hockey as the show goes on in our last segment of this show, but there's a lot of exciting news coming around basketball as well in general. And I don't know if you have anything you want to say about that.
Well, a little teaser. I mean, much like we did for football,
we'll
have next couple of days, we'll have a number of announcements coming out related to basketball and game day at Desert Financial Arena, some of the creature comforts and fan improvements that we've been hard at work making. We've also got a really exciting schedule announcement on the men's side that we'll share for the 2025 non-conference schedule, so stay tuned for that. That'll be exciting news that I think our fans will be really excited about, a chance to go to a wonderful tropical destination and watch the men's basketball team compete in next November. So a lot of fun announcements on the basketball side here coming here very soon.
I'm not here to spoil anything at all. I think he was excited to kind of tease it a little bit.
Just tease it. Coming soon. We're close.
Yes,
we're
coming
close.
soon. 942 crew will be bumping as well. Can't wait to see it. But that's it for segment 1. From talking about a tropical location, let's talk about beach volleyball. We have the beach volleyball segments coming up. Coming up next on Sun Devil Extra. Back here on Sun Devil Extra, and let's go to the beach. Why don't we go to the beach? And we'll talk Sun Devil beach volleyball. We're joined now by head coach Kristen Glattfelder, coming into her second year at the helm. And if you don't follow this program or you don't remember because the season was a few months ago, let me remind you it was a historic year for this program a year ago. So first off, Coach, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no
Appreciate
problem.
it.
I want to kind of get your thoughts on last year, and we'll touch on that in a moment. But let's talk right now in the present as we're sitting here nearly in November. You're still a couple of months away from the season. I know for a player, this can kind of be a tough part of the year where you're training, you're getting going, but it seems far away. For you as a coach, what is this time of year like?
I mean, this time of the year is about honing in on all the details. You know, like we talk so much about the process and the controllables, and you know, we have a handful of new athletes, and just making sure everyone's on the same page fundamentally. You know, we focus a lot on doing things right and making sure that, like, you know, our platforms are really good, our approach, just all the details. And this is a great time to do that, because while we get to compete some, you know, this is our time to have small group sessions and like use the competitions that we do have this fall to figure out what we need to work on before spring.
You mentioned some of the newcomers in this year, but I know you have a solid amount of returners, and that's very exciting considering what this team did a year ago, really raising the bar, if you will, for this program in what was your first season. How great is that as a coach to know you have that solid core of returners coming back?
Yeah, I mean, where we were at this time last year, like it's not even recognizable, you know, like we are just in such a different spot. Like we're performing at such a higher level, like the drills that we're able to do to, you know, work on different parts of our game are not totally like just working on basics. It's getting deeper into the game of beach volleyball. And I mean, it's like we talk about it a lot, where we were a year ago, and just having them reflect like, okay, last October, this is where I was, and now to see them where they are right now, like it's super exciting for what we can do this spring.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Let's touch on last year. We mentioned last October, but then when the season came around, you guys were competitive in a big way. 21-10 overall, first ever NCAA tournament appearance, number 12 seed, and really reset the standards, beating ranked opponents. And the Pac-12, of course, was stacked as it was every single year. But those are just a few of the great things you guys were able to accomplish a year ago. When you look back on things now that you've been able to decompress, I know as a coach you got to decompress after the season. You've had that chance to do so. What were some of those most special moments that you'll take from your first season and move forward now into your second?
There was just so many firsts, you know, like first Pac-12 Player of the Week, first All-Americans, first All-Tournament team, first time going to nationals. Probably one of the most special moments, beating Stanford earlier in the year, beating Cal at home, hosting Pac-12 championships, and then being in Dutton Theater and hearing their names called, and just looking at the athletes that had been here for, you know, the last 2-3 years, and have worked so hard to get to that moment, and just seeing like the excitement on everyone's faces, and like knowing like how hard they worked to get there. Because it wasn't, you know, when I was thinking about what my first year could look like, absolutely knew top 20, no brainer. Top 15, very doable. Making it to nationals, very realistic, but also like that's really hard to do in a first year. And like it was all about the work they put in and how mentally tough they were through the course of the season. So it was just really special to see them be able to experience that announcement and then be able to go to the championships.
Yeah, and that was, I think a lot of people were taken back by how quick the turnaround was. But you know, you coming in your first season last year, you mentioned some of those players you had that were there before you had arrived. What's that like as a coach? Because sometimes we hear from a player's perspective coming in, you know, what it's like for the coach coming in. But from your perspective, you coming into this program and having some of those players that have been in Tempe for a year or 2 years already, what's that like to try to gain their trust, if you will, to earn that bond you need to have to be successful? Because clearly you did it very well last year.
I mean, it's a process, and thankfully there was a handful of them that I had recruited when they were juniors, and then there was also some of them that I got to coach because I coached for their club here in Arizona. So I had a relationship with a handful of them, but it's so different. You know, I was somewhere for 8 years, and you just have, like, you get comfortable, and you know, you don't have to think about, like, you might have 2, 3, 4 freshmen that are coming in that you have to get to know them, but I had to get to know a whole team. And it was a big growth moment for me, and it was also like, it was a huge challenge and like breath of fresh air in my coaching career. and just kind of, I don't know, it was a lot of fun. Also very challenging at times to get everyone to buy in and understand hey, trust the process, we're going to get there. And I can't even explain how different going into this year has been, because now we have a year under our belt.
Sure.
And I feel like I know my athletes a lot more, and it's definitely been a lot more calm, I feel like, for all of us. And now they understand the expectations. They understand how we're going to hold them accountable and what that looks like. And so yeah, this year has been a lot of fun, and just looking back to last year was a big growth year for me in general.
Being familiar breeds a comfortable sense of nature, right?
Yeah.
And that's what you've got on your side now, being in year two, I'd say.
Yeah.
You mentioned recruiting and how you had recruited some of the juniors when you came in. Mm-hmm. For Sentinel fans that maybe don't, follow beach volleyball a lot when the Olympics aren't going on, or they haven't made it out and seen, one of your matches so far, which you need to when the season starts. I highly recommend it. We'll plug that when the season gets closer. But what is that process like? I think outsiders would say beach volleyball in Arizona. What's happening? How do you recruit in Arizona and find the success that you have?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Arizona is kind of one of the first states that started high school beach volleyball. California, obviously, Texas, Florida, but Arizona is one of the few that actually has high school beach volleyball. So now they're getting opportunities to play, all year round, and not just for a club, but for high school as well. And there's a lot of talent here. There's some great clubs, some really great coaches that develop their talent well, and it's a huge advantage. It's a great place to recruit.
We had mentioned the Pac-12 and how difficult that was. That was the powerhouse conference in the sport, really. Now you're in a new era, as everyone at ASU is in the Big 12, and a conference that's just introducing beach volleyball into the fold. And so just 4 programs this first year: ASU, of course, U of A, Utah, and TCU. Mm-hmm. So for you at the helm, what do you like about this conference moving forward, and what's this year going to be like specifically with scheduling and everything like that to work with what is a smaller conference?
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing about beach volleyball is within our conferences, there's not a conference schedule, whereas with other sports, you have to play every team twice throughout the year. Mm-hmm. We do one big mid-season event, and then we do our conference championships. And honestly, we end up playing all these schools anyways. Great rivalry, obviously, with U of A.
Sure.
TCU is usually a top team, so we like to play them as well. But we just felt like it was so important to get beach volleyball rolling in the Big 12. Big thing is about growing our sport. It was one of the fastest growing sports in NCAA history, and we want to keep that momentum. And, we're let's get it started. And maybe there's other schools that have been thinking about starting beach volleyball at their university, and maybe this will, get them to start it a little bit sooner and help keep the momentum of growing beach volleyball in general.
You mentioned the sport growing quickly. Well, your program is growing quickly as well, and I think a lot of people are taking note of that. Coach, we're going to have you back on when the season starts for sure, because and I'm going to have to come out and watch you guys go at it as well. I've never done it yet, so I'm going to have to do that.
We do host this weekend.
Okay.
A fall event with us, GCU, and U of A. It'll be all day, Saturday and Sunday, from 8:30, 9 a.m.-ish to 5 p.m.
Perfect. There you go. Well, we can do it this weekend. Yeah, take a break from college football before the Devils play on Saturday night, and come out and watch some beach volleyball with all the local Arizona schools. Coach Glattfelder, thanks a lot, and best of luck moving forward.
Thanks so much.
We'll be back with more after this. And we're back here on Sun Devil Extra. Braiden Bell joined by Arden Besecker as we stay on our beach volleyball theme of the show today. Junior from Austin, Texas. First off, Arden, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I want to ask you about the offseason. We were just talking to Coach and what it's like from her perspective. Of course, you guys have some fall ball, if you will, coming up this weekend, but the offseason as a whole. Yeah. What is it like for you, having to kind of chill? You're not getting to compete as much. It's a lot of practice. Is it frustrating, or do you like this time of year?
I would say, I think right now we're in the middle of fall ball, so I would say now I'm enjoying it, but it can get pretty frustrating. We work really, really hard. Our team is just has a really strong work ethic, and we are very dedicated to getting better each day. So I think we really buy in. So I love how much work we put in. I think we're just all ready to see it in action. So fall ball is a little taste of that. being able to see all our hard work pay off. So I'm excited for season to be able to just like compete and like show everyone what we've been working on all fall.
Yeah, well, and you're building off of so much success last year, as we were just talking about with Coach as well. It was your first year in Tempe, and you got to experience so many firsts in general, not just for you, but for the program's history. I mean, it was so special what you guys were able to do a year ago, to be a part of that team and to be a benchmark for not only the history of the program, but moving forward into this year and next year and the year after that as well. What was that like for you?
It was honestly surreal. I feel like that's like what like our season we had, and like the feelings like when we beat like Stanford and Cal. It truly like was like what you like people like dream of when they're younger. Like it's just like so surreal being able to play like in like a big top conference against big top schools, and like even getting to compete at like home. Like it was just the best feeling, and like we really honestly, like no one knew what we were going to do this next year. Like it was really all up in the air, and it was like what we made of it. And I think we all just like took advantage of that and like made the most of it, and like came out and competed. And we had like so many big, amazing moments the whole year that were awesome.
I want to touch on that Stanford win, because both you and Coach had just mentioned that just in the brief conversations I've had with both of you. Is that highlight win? Of course, they're a program that has so much great history over the course of their program. If you could take, when you think of that win, is there one single moment that pops to mind?
I would say there's two moments, because there was, well, I don't know if anyone who doesn't know, the Stanford game was at like 10 p.m. at night. We had a delay. And so I was in the middle of playing my game, and I came back, and we ended up pushing to a 3. And me and my partner at the time, Ava Williamson, we won the third and like by 2 points. Like it was just like, and at the time, like we were not projected to beat Stanford. Like that wasn't like, it was that moment I would say was incredible. And then like standing on the sides that like, it's so dark out, like we're all just like watching like Lexi Sweeney and then Taryn Ames like clinch the duel was like the most amazing feeling, because they both had been a part of the program like their whole careers. They were our captains. Like it was just like in storming. Like I just remember my adrenaline that night was so high. Like I just smile thinking about that night. It was like the best, one of my favorite moments of like the whole year.
And
it was awesome.
That's one of those things that you think of now moving forward. You want that same feeling
exactly.
again, right?
Like 100%. We all wanted to match that feeling and like that intensity again, and have it like every weekend, because it's just so awesome.
I want to ask you about playing under Coach Glattfelder and what that's been like for you. You both came in at the same time, you being a transfer, her coming over from GCU where she'd been the coach for 8 years. What were some of the biggest impacts that you felt that she made, let's say from day one you stepped on campus?
Yeah, I feel like just from the beginning, I mean, we were all like, I feel like at times like just like, where are we, what's going on? Like it was just so new, and she was just always very welcoming. I feel like she truly like from day one till now just believed in me, and like always knew that like what, like just always had that faith in me, and not just like me but the program. And she knew what like our program could do, and especially like with last year, like so much nuance and just like so many like things up in the air, to have that comfort and knowing that your coach like believes in all of us and believes in like our outcome, it just like was such a great feeling. And I feel like each of our coaching staff, we have such different personalities, and like they all like worked so well together to give us like that experience. And I'm so glad like for all of us it worked off into season. And now even like we were just actually talking about like how more comfortable we all feel, and how it's just like easier now that we've had like 1 year under our belt.
I want to ask you about an opportunity that you got to take part in off the sand, if we will, in the summertime. Let's talk about the Big 12 Without Borders event in Washington, D.C. You got to go with football player CJ Fight, both of you guys representing ASU and along with plenty of other athletes around the conference. What was that experience like for you, and what did you really take from it?
That experience was something like it truly changed like my life. Like it was so, I learned so much. We went to Washington, D.C. for 5 days, and we got to experience so much history. We went to museums like the Holocaust Museum and the African American Museum, and we also had the opportunity to focus on civic issues that we all felt about and present on Capitol Hill.
Wow. And
which is just, it's crazy that we were able to do that at like 20 and like 19 and to have those experiences. And not only that, meeting so many people from across the country. Like Big 12 is of course a huge conference, and I feel like it spreads like the entire nation now. And I met so many cool people, and it was something I had never done before. And we honestly didn't know that much about it, because like as Arizona State being a late add to the Big 12, like we just were not fully aware of it. And so being able to go and learn so much was just like an incredible time. I'm so glad I was able to go.
Yeah, it was an honor for you as well.
Yeah, it really
and,
was.
And to meet so many different student athletes, like you said, it had to have been very special. Let's, again, stay off the playing surface for a moment and talk about your studies, because in research for this interview, I saw business law. Very impressive. So what is the ultimate goal with that major, and what interested you to get into that in the first place?
Yeah, the ultimate goal is to be a sports agent for like the NFL or the NBA, and just kind of continue working in sports, but like a different side of it. I've always just like loved athletics, like the competitive nature, like the games. Like it's just so fun. And I also just really like knowing how things work in business. And I kind of just started to like, when I applied to transfer here and like as a student, I like saw that major and it just like really interested me. And like I like was like, I mean, I've always been slightly interested in going to law school after college. So I'm in it my second year, and it's like I'm learning so much about business and law, and it's like really cool. And it's a really, really cool major that they have, and I'm glad I'm like able to use it to what I want to do after college.
You say it so casually. If you ever need to represent any broadcasters as well, remember me. Remember this interview.
This moment.
I'll be in touch with you later on.
Yeah.
Also, in preparation for this interview, one more and then we'll let you go. Okay. Indoor cycling is what I heard that you like to indoor cycle. Now that is, I need to hear more. How did this start? And what about it do you love?
I just like love it. Like, so I've done it, like I've always like been super active like throughout ever, and like I loved finding like different ways outside of like beach to like work out. And so I work for a like spin studio at home, indoor cycling, and got a plug. That's love all of them. And like it's just like one of my favorite things ever. I love the energy. You go into like a room for like 45 minutes to an hour and you just like work out. There's like no phones, and like you just are listening to music. You have an instructor. Like it's just such a great experience, and like it is so like freeing. Like I think beach, there's so much thought behind it. We are constantly like strategizing, and it's like an exercise where I'm not thinking. I'm just like being able to be there, and like the community I have there is just like so special to me, and like I love all of them, and like I love going home and being able to get back into it. It's just so fun.
That's awesome.
It's great. I love it.
I think
I think everyone should try it at least once.
I need to. I might die the first time I do it.
It is really hard, I will say, but it's so much fun. You can't even think about how hard it is.
I think
because the energy is so great.
The odds of you representing me, being my agent at some point, might be better than me doing that. But whatever. Nonetheless, great to talk to you, and congratulations on everything you guys have accomplished so far and going into the future as well. Arden Besecker again joining us here on Sun Devil Extra, and good luck the rest of the way in volleyball and into the season as well.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
We'll be back to wrap things up with Graham Rossini when we come back. Back here on Sun Devil Extra, presented by Spring Hill Suites Phoenix Scottsdale, rejoined again by ASU Athletic Director Graham Rossini for our final segment of the show. And we'll start by talking about ASU hockey. Graham, last week when we were talking about this team, we said, okay, you need a feel-good weekend. You need a get-right weekend. That's exactly what they were able to find at Northern Michigan over the weekend. A couple of big wins, 3-1 on Friday, 2-0 on Saturday. Now you have a bye before conference play, but let's talk about last weekend first, because there is something big about, just finding that rhythm yet again before you hop into your inaugural conference season, and that's exactly what they were able to find in two very impressive defensive performances. Yeah,
we needed that. Shout out to Gibby and the goaltending side of it, and just locking down these 2 wins on the road, which are enormously valuable just based on a very tough schedule out the gate, looking for some momentum going into the NCHC schedule right around the corner. We had a plane full of donors on the trip to Northern Michigan. So again, so grateful for the support that feeds into our hockey program. It's been a big reason why we were able to elevate into Division I, make the commitment to build Mullet Arena, and then now be resourced enough to be able to be in the best hockey conference in America. So a really important weekend, and then coming back home on the bye. These bye weekends in hockey are very important when you go into the NCHC, because it's going to be a gauntlet, much like we'll see in the Big 12 basketball schedule here very soon.
Sure.
This hockey conference is going to be week in and week out, knock them down, drag them out type competition. And so this weekend, by design, as a bye, and letting the coaches kind of get back to the drawing board and make some tweaks and adjustments before we get too far into the season. So feel good weekend on the road. Great chance to interact with some incredible supporters of hockey, get back to the Valley and some home cooking, and focus more on the fundamentals back at Mullet Arena this week, and get geared up for the next chapter of hockey as well.
Rest, recover, prepare before you dive in. You said, I think the Big 12 basketball analogy is perfect, because this conference, the NCHC, is it's a powerhouse league. I mean, many people would say probably the best conference in the country when it comes to hockey, and it will all start again, not this weekend, but next weekend, another top 10 opponent on the road, Colorado College. But I think talking about non-conference, the way Coach Power set up the schedule and the program set up the schedule, they're already road tested, taking on Providence, taking on Air Force, Northern Michigan, like we just said over the weekend. Those things do help prepare yourself for conference play and to take on Colorado College in just a little over a week. That could pay dividends moving forward.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think hockey of any of our programs is probably the most battle tested on travel and going to cold weather climates and just different parts of the country, just given the limited Division I hockey programs that there are. And the beauty of the NCHC is it's one of the best conferences. It's also a pretty expansive footprint, touching most of the Midwest, getting a little bit into the East Coast with some of the schools in Ohio. So they'll be ready, but important time of the year for the hockey season and building momentum and confidence going into some really important games.
And again, like we said about football, they'll be excited the coaches and players at least will be excited to just rest, practice, focus on the fundamentals like you said, and then prepare for conference play in just a little bit over a week. New segment we're going to bring onto the show here in segment 4 that, Graham, you brought up to us, and I think this is a great segment. We will start Sun Devil for Life of the Week. There are always great stories and great faces you see of Sun Devils around the community that you interact with on a weekly basis. So it's kind of just a time for you to shout someone out who you may have seen, who we may have heard from, any of those things throughout the week. So our first week, who do we have here for our Sun Devil for Life of the Week?
Yeah, we're going to shout out baseball letter winner, former Major League catcher Tuffy Ghostwish, who is a Valley native but lives in Orange County now and was back in town for some work reasons late last week. We had a chance to connect. Tuffy's older brother Chip was a part of Sun Devil baseball. His family, Goose and Nancy, are incredible Sun Devils, and so Tuffy being back in town was great to kind of connect with him and hear what he's up to. And happy to we're running into former Sun Devil or Sun Devil letter winners. They're always Sun Devils, but a lot of people back in town for travels or different reasons. And again, we want to keep opening our doors and making sure that alums are always welcome here. Lauren Sky was with us during the football trip in Cincinnati. Promise was at a women's basketball practice a few weeks ago, and so it's really cool that there's different moments that keep presenting themselves for our great Sun Devil letter winners to plug back in, and it's really important that we're welcoming but also reminding our fans these great Sun Devils that are still plugged in and around the space.
So if you are a letter winner and you want a shout out, just make sure this guy sees you. He'll shout you out the following
Fair
week.
enough.
I guess that's what I have to say in regards to that, but also about baseball. Fall ball got going Saturday at Muni. The Devils took care of Cal Baptist, so that is a good start to fall ball, and I know that will continue over the next week or two, I believe.
Yeah, big game against Team USA Friday night at Phoenix Muni. So there's a group of professionals getting ready to go play in the Premier 12 tournament to qualify for some future international events. Sun Devil commit Tamar Johnson, who was a first-round pick of the Pirates, to be on Team USA, and so it'll be a good test for a really exciting baseball roster. And you mentioned the 2 games against Cal Baptist. I talked to Coach Bloomquist this morning, and he was really excited about the depth and the pitching that we've been able to see so far. And so the USA game will be a great test. We've got Grand Canyon coming in for another scrimmage later in the weekend, and so baseball's underway. Austin Barnes, shout out in the World Series. We don't need to name his team, but he's a proud Sun Devil representing us in the World Series right now, and so that's very exciting.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say I don't get to choose a Sun Devil for Life of the Week, but if we're talking letter winners and a potential ring season, and I hope I'm not jinxing this because this will age extremely poorly, but we want Austin to get that ring.
I'm happy for him to get another World Series ring.
Yes.
But it's about Austin. It's not about his franchise. So
it's about both of them to me. But yes, congratulations to Austin, and congratulations potentially to the Dodgers as well. It is nearly Halloween, so it is spooky season here on Sun Devil Extra. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, Graham. I don't know if you're a Halloween connoisseur, are you?
Big fan.
Okay,
big fan of Halloween.
Okay, so I'm not. I get scared of.
Really?
And yeah, I'm very jumpy. I know.
We might need to have a separate conversation about this.
Well, this is why I'm asking you, because I'd give terrible answers to all these questions. What's your favorite scary movie?
Oh wow. I don't know if it's favorite, but recently, like Hubie Halloween, featuring Adam Sandler.
Yep.
It's terrible, but amazingly hilarious. I watched it again a couple of nights ago. My wife came in the bedroom and immediately started making fun of me. But always been a big Adam Sandler fan, so Hubie Halloween is high on the list right now.
Okay, I have 2 more for you. Favorite Halloween candy. So this could be a throwback to when you were trick-or-treating, or it could be what you're taking from your kids' trick-or-treat baskets now. It could be either one.
Hard to pick one, but big fan of the flavored Tootsie Rolls that only seem to come out at Halloween time.
You talking like the blue ones?
Blue one, green ones, even vanilla is a nice little spin on it. Big Skittles fan. And anything in the Reese's family.
Yes.
Peanut butter and chocolate pairing, always a good mixture. So We've got a very excited 5-year-old and 3-year-old family of mummies that are getting ready to trick or treat, and so Dad will be dipping into the candy jar for sure.
Okay, yeah, and that was kind of leading into my next question. You're doing a great job of segueing into questions here on this week's show. Yeah, favorite all-time costume, or I know you mentioned it's the mummy theme this year.
Yeah.
What do we got maybe dating back in the past as well, costume-wise?
Yeah, we're going family of mummies.
Okay.
We may or may not have a photo that we can probably superimpose right about here if our crack behind-the-scenes staff is on it. I'm told that they will be. So family of mummies, and it's actually really cool. Coach Dillingham does a Sunday night dinner with the coaching staff, and they invited our family to come. And so all the coaches did trick or treating in their offices. So we got a dry run at the mummy costumes, which is the photo that we'll share. But we've been a family of baby sharks before. We've been a family of skeletons before. We were Ghostbusters a few years ago. Our son Rhett was the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. He was a big fan of that. So we're all in on Halloween. My wife is she's into face paint and full get-ups, including mom and dad. So we're ready for action Thursday night.
When I was a kid, I would just choose my favorite uniform of the time, and I would just be a player of that team, so I'd get the free jersey.
Okay.
So I was Amari Stoudemire, I was Steve Nash, I was Jake Plummer once when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
So that's what I would do. That's think smarter, not harder.
Well done.
But yes, that's
it's
how
a gift
I would
that keeps giving, right?
Exactly right. It was brilliant of me. Last thing for you, Graham, before we let you go, I know football getting back to action. We've talked about basketball being close, volleyball's big week. A couple things you're looking forward to, and maybe Sun Devil fans as well should look forward to going into this week, because it really is shaping up to be what could be a big, very impactful week with soccer as well.
Yeah, I mean, soccer, I'm really, really eager to see how they're doing in the Big 12 tournament. We'll be tuned in from here in the Valley. You know, traveling Friday to Stillwater, we've got a group of Midwest stoners that we'll be with Friday night. That's going to be exciting. A great game day in T. Boone Pickens Stadium. And then you'll get back home, and we're in the basketball season Monday, Tuesday with the women's, and then the men's playing. Big home volleyball game on Wednesday night. A number of our other sports competing, tennises, golf programs in Hawaii right now doing amazing. Shout out to Missy on that front. And just, again, a lot of excitement. We've got beach volleyball, who's been on the show today, getting ready for an exciting season, coming off a monster 24 campaign in the spring, making the tournament. So really excited about Kristen and the job that she's doing. And again, just a lot of excitement along the way. Just keep shouting out the fans and the support that we're getting every step of the way. It's just been exciting. It fuels our coaches. It fuels our student athletes in a way that we're just very grateful and very excited for what comes next.
A lot of good vibes, and certainly a lot of big games like we've noted over the next week. It was kind of a slow week last week, but it's about to kick off into crossover season, as we call it, if you're in the industry. So I hope everyone is ready to go, and it should be a lot of fun. So that just about does it for this week's edition of Sun Devil Extra. For Graham Rossini, I'm Braiden Bell saying so long from Tempe. We'll talk to you next week.